Okay, in this video, I'm basically going to talk about how I think chemtrails are killing trees and crops. But first we're going to talk about how plants survive and how that ties into how the farming techniques are all wrong in this country and others, and how ultimately these same microbes involved affect our health. But first, a little background. Plant health started in the early 19th century. Carbon and nitrogen come from the atmosphere, and hydrogen and oxygen from water. Rocks, everything else. Plants need phosphorus, nitrogen, potassium to build roots, stems, leaves. The atmosphere is 80% nitrogen, so plants use microbial help to pull it from the atmosphere. Potassium is common in rocks. Phosphorus is rare and only occurs in some rocks and decaying organic matter. Like dead trees. Which reminds me of these idiots. These idiot Dumbos. They're in every neighborhood, as soon as a leaf falls, or especially a tree, they're out there Johnny on the spot, sawing it up and burning it away or blowing the leaves away. I mean, they're just dumb as dirt, But if you ever see smart people, like people in the forestry commission, forestry service, or, have you ever been to a state or federal park, they always leave the dead trees laying there because they increase the soil health and provide shelter for a lot of animals. These idiots don't know and don't care. Plants also require calcium and magnesium, which are abundant in rocks. Other elements in rocks are considered micronutrients since plants need far less of them. Plants stockpile and concentrate them. They are zinc, iron, which plants fold into complex molecules that serve specialized purposes in shoots, roots, leaves, seeds, and fruits. Microbes, I'll repeat, microbes help remove essential elements from the rocks. A diagram over here. Here's some rocks. Here's a phosphate rock. They'll get these from the bedrock to provide it for the tree. Like where I live, there's a lot of limestone, which is calcium and magnesium, with other kind of rocks mixed in. Microbes help remove essential elements from rocks and keep them in play. Microbes also recycle elements in organic matter. Since humus is insoluble in water, the plant cannot take it up. They used to think they could before the 19th century. Just like any other layman might think, oh, the tree's sitting in dirt, it's taking it up by itself. No, it requires microbes' help. The key things for the plant growth are water, carbon dioxide, nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Now on to microbial wizardry. Nitrogen supercharges the growth of green leafy parts of plants like nothing else. And microbes living in root nodules convert atmospheric nitrogen into ammonium, which plants can use. And that is called nitrogen fixation, which is a symbiotic relationship between plants and bacteria. Got a little nifty chart over here for that. There we go. The nitrogen triple bond is almost indestructible lock, but converting it to ammonia renders it water soluble, so plants can absorb it. Some trees can get nitrogen from fungus that scavenge it right from the bedrock. Lightning, right here, also breaks the nitrogen triple bond. But you got this bunny or cow, now they're in Congress talking about how cow farts are causing global warming. No, they're not. That's probably some of the best compost you can get. Um, so when it goes, okay, we go to the decomposers, aerobic and anaerobic bacteria and fungi, which break it down to ammonium. And then that goes with nitrifying bacteria to nitrites. Nitrifying bacteria convert to NO3. And then that goes for plant assimilation. Or, back up to the sky by denitrifying bacteria. Lightning can also break that bond, produce nitrates, which can be taken up by the plant. Or we've got over here the nitrogen fixation, the nitrogen fixing bacteria living in root nodules of the trees or plants, which then goes to nitrogen fixing soil bacteria, and that can be converted to ammonium, and then blah blah, taken up by the plant. In the 1950s, the Haber-Bosch process made chemical fertilizers. But Albert Howard, I really like this guy, he discovered that using pesticides and herbicides to protect crops from pests made it harder to grow healthy crops, and this increased the need for more poisons. Insects and fungi were not problems, but rather biological cleanup crews that removed distressed or weak crops. Modern agriculture led to disease-prone crops. He said agricultural research institutions were intent on learning more and more about less and less. I remember this landlady I had in college, and she took some class where they were talking about crops and stuff, and she says, they've been telling me stuff I've known for years. It's common sense stuff, that farmers know. Agrochemicals treated the symptoms, but not the causes. Just like when you go to the doctor and they prescribe you all these dumb drugs. They're not treating the problem, really. They're treating the symptoms, usually. So in 1924 to 1932, he developed large-scale composting called the indoor process. He used both plant and animal waste to make compost. And within a few years, crop yields more than doubled, and crop diseases disappeared. So may return to organic waste. Howard saw chemical fertilizers as agricultural steroids, a way to enhance short-term performance at the expense of long-term soil fertility and health. They ignored the important role of organic matter. Organic matter fed the microbial and fungal catalyst that recycled once living matter back into building blocks. Howard called it the slow poisoning of the life of the soil by artificial manure. It's one of the great calamities. Over here, I looked up North America agrochemical market size and share analysis, because they make a lot of money, which is this country's bottom line. It's government's bottom line. They're not raping you with their taxes. They're killing the food supply with this stupidity. The North American Agrochemicals Market Report, segmented by type: fertilizers, pesticides, adjuvants, and plant growth regulators. Blah, blah, blah. And then they got here, Northern has undergone significant transformations, robust growth. I don't want to know. It's increased productivity and food security in the region. Fertilizers constitute the most significant subsegment under title. Okay, production in million metric tons. Nitrogen fertilizer, urea, ammonium sulfate, ammonium nitrate. The United States dominates the market. It's one of the most prominent players in agrochemicals market. Are the most commonly used pesticide. Was it chlorpyrifos and acephate are the most commonly used pesticide active ingredients in the country. We need to look those up and do another video on those. Currently, corn, soybeans, wheat, and cotton account for the most use of agrochemicals in the market. So that means those are the ones you need to stay away from. In fact, my doctor said the wheat, it's GMO, genetically modified, so the body really can't use it, and it just gets stored as fat. You know, it's just elevated in the United States remain constant. Oh, okay. So, North American market, United States, Canada. Okay, here's their top businesses. Bayer, Corteva, AgriScience, BASF, Archer Daniels, Midland Company, and Yara. Yeah. So, that's that. Providing agricultural science. Okay, so Liebus overlooked the important role of organic matter. It fed the microbial fungal catalyst that recycled once living matter to building blocks. The slow poisoning of soil by artificial manure is one of the greatest calamities which has befallen agriculture and mankind. Howard surmised that chemical fertilizers weakened a plant's biological defenses. He suspected that fungal mycorrhizae were involved. He said pests, parasites, and pathogens resulted from the breakdown of complex biological system. Experiments carried out from 1843 to 1973 show that test plots of fertilized with farmyard manure for more than a century tripled their soil content. Tripled. On the contrast, nearly all nitrogen added in plots with chemical fertilizers were lost from the soil, carried away in runoff, or leached by groundwater. Soil health depends on the health of the soil. Microorganisms. Overwatering causes anaerobic conditions and underwatering inhibits microbe activity. Howard realized it wasn't just the breakdown of organic matter by itself, because the fertility soil increased faster than the compost could decay on its own. I'm going to say that again. It's not just the breakdown of organic matter by itself. In other words, throwing the manure down. It's not just that alone, because the fertility of the soil increased faster than the compost could decay on its own. Thus realizing something else must be making the dramatic response to compost, even the modest use of compost. Howard suspected it stimulated the relationship between the mycorrhizal fungi and the plant roots. Alright? So that's the rhizobium root nodules again. We went over that one already. Here we go. Mycorrhizal fungi. Now, he did an experiment, page 83 of this book. And by the way, I'm getting my information from this great book I got from the library. Okay? The Hidden Half of Nature. The Microbial Roots of Life and Health by David Montgomery and Ann Bickel. Okay? And they've got a diagram here of an experiment they did. Page 83. 83. Page 83. Okay. Right here. Okay. So, guess which plants were smothered in the chemical fertilizers? Okay. The middle one, the conventional. Okay. And then on the end, you've got the compost manure. Which Howard said, look how healthy that is. Look how many root nodules. And really, the plant was better off with nothing compared to the chemical fertilizers. The one on the left was with nothing at all. Okay. So, healthy roots full of mycorrhizal fungi. Example, tea plants, compost. The compost field had, for the tea plants, they were 10 inches high, had strong tap roots, well-branched, healthy foliage. The chemical fertilized tea plants were only 6 inches compared to 10, had shallow roots, single unbranched stalk, sparse pale foliage. Howard saw how leaves, branches, dead trunks of fallen trees with animal waste decayed to humus. Hear that? Fallen trees? You dumb people out there that can't stand a dead tree around? You idiots. Decayed to humus via microbial decomposers. Earthworms. Then reworked and redistributed. A thriving population of earthworms is a sign of a healthy soil. Worms mix soil with organic matter in their gut and deliver it freshly made to the soil with infused plant nutrients. It made no sense to spray chemicals that fed them. Leaves, wood drops, and coffee grinds of their garden attracts earwigs, beetles, and earthworms. And they strip it down to nutrients until all that remains is nitrogen, hydrogen. Earthworms do impressive things despite having no teeth. They have a gizzard between their mouth and stomach that contains rock fragments for grinding leaf mush into smaller pieces. Here we've got a beetle here. These are important. Here's an earwig and a springtail. Smaller mites and springtails, visible with a 10 power microscope, they clip away all but the veins of a leaf. All of this leave a hearty meal for the fungi and bacteria. So we first start with the bigger ones, right? Okay. And then we get down to, and since microbes don't have teeth or gizzards, they don't need mouths. They use acids and enzymes to gnaw. Fungi take the lead into turning dead things back to living. Fungi. And certain types specialize in eating dead wood. The chemical arsenal of fungi break apart long chains of durable carbon-hydrogen-rich molecules that form wood. Little else in microbial world has this ability. Although farms have long despised fungi, but they are crucial to plant health and survival. Alright, got that? I got, the famous truffles rooted out in France by pigs only grow on certain trees, so can't be farmed. Without fungi and bacteria, we'd all be rock deep in dead plants and animals. A single teaspoon of soil can contain half a mile of fungal hyphae. The middlemen, which are the visible soil organisms, are your protists. Paramecia, amoebas, we've got here in this diagram. Acanthamoeba. Okay, soil protist. Nematodes. And then the nematodes. Okay, where are we? Right here. Okay. And then the nematodes break down the protists that I just showed you. They prey on protists and bacteria. Bacteria also contribute to a surprising amount of soil organic matter when they're tagged, some with stable carbon-13 isotope. In fact, 80% of soil organic matter, when beneficial microbes are present in the soil near the roots, they send messages to plants that lead to an immune-like response called induced systemic resistance. Language used for this is proteins, hormones, etc. Plants have a microbiome, a mass of microbes that coats roots, leaves, shoots, fruit, seeds. Hillner saw microbes were more abundant to plant roots. So the microbes hang out more near the root areas, the rhizosphere. The rhizosphere, which is, we got a photo here on page 99. 99 of the rhizosphere. Let's see. Whoops. It was in the other picture too, but here we have the... That's your rhizosphere down there. Okay. Okay, the rhizosphere root exudates account for 30 to 40% of plants' photosynthetic product of carbohydrates. Root exudate releases tryptophan. Bacteria turn it into a growth hormone, indole-3 acetic acid, which causes root growth to increase in density, root hairs, lateral growth. The different species of microbes have different preferences, and all are selective about what root exudates they'll take up. The pea and oat rhizospheres harbor up to 5 times more soil life than the rhizosphere of wheat and pea. Okay, rhizosphere. They're abundant in fungi. Plants fend off bad pathogens by sending out certain phytochemicals, and if a troublesome microbe ignores the warning, the plant initiates a cascade of chemical defenses to seal off entry points. Plants can also, just like us, just like an immune system. Plants can also make antimicrobial compounds that kill or weaken pathogens like corn exos, benzoxynoids. I can't even say the word. They're doing stuff just like an immune system. The three major groups of rhizosphere bacteria are actinomycetes, formicutes, and bacteroidetes. Actinomycetes produce compounds that interface with bacteria, fungal, and viral pathogens. When leaf pathogens attack a plant, the plant senses them and sends a signal message to the roots. The root cells in turn release exudates, for example, malic acid, which attracts Bacillus subtilis, the bacteria, within hours to colonize roots and initiates more chemical communication. Also, B. subtilis also induces the plant to shut down the tiny openings in the leaf surfaces called stomata, which I found interesting. Let me see where that picture was. Here it is. They close the leaf opening. That's a stomatal pore. Ingenious, really. And some, like legume plants in the pea family, produce phytochemicals called flavonoids to attract nitrogen-fixing bacteria. One type of nitrogen-fixing bacteria is in genus Rhizobium. They move in when plants release flavonoids in the roots. Only in plant sends the right message will they respond. They lock onto the root hairs. They charm the root hair cells to grow in curls and bulges around the bacteria. And if the plant needs more nitrogen, they secrete more flavonoids to recruit more bacteria. And I'm going to continue on to part 2 of this because I'm almost out of time. So we'll go to part 2.